Welcome to CodeStack Swift development digital meetup. Today we're having Alex give us a presentation. Once that presentation's over, we'll have a quick ask a designer, UX or our UX professional. She'll be online. That's Joanne. She'll be here to answer any questions you might have and anywhere of her expertise. So that'll be after the presentation. So right now we'll start off with Alex. So Alex, I'll let you take over.
Yay! All right, guys. So today we'll be talking about Swift development. I feel like I need to start with a little bit of history and how this all came to be. So there will be a few minutes of that. So first iPhone came out in 2007, and it had only 20 pre-installed apps. For an entire year, that was it. There was no App Store until July of 2008. And when App Store came out, it had only 500 apps. And since then, as of September 9 of 2019, there are more than 2 million apps available at the store. So Store itself is an interesting app because it is actually an app that sort of sells apps. So it's app as any other. And it had its own history and life cycle. There's a pretty cool article if you have interest about what happened to the App Store from its early years to what it is nowadays. How early apps were $3 to $15, and there were only so many of them. And then there was a great sort of race to the bottom, and every app became free or 99 cents. And since they became unprofitable, really, because it took hours and weeks and months to build them, now everything is a subscription-based model. So that's a new solution. And we'll see what will be next. Or you can have a prepaid app like Starbucks has. And there are so many ways to monetize on your apps that's a whole different conversation. So let's imagine you want to build and submit your app. What would you need? You wouldn't really need that much. Apple published their requirements, and they're pretty straightforward. First, you'll have to review guidelines for your app. So if it's a gambling app, you'll have to put all kind of gambling warnings. If it has some kind of encryption, you'll have to comply with their guidelines about encryption and things of that nature. You would have to have High Sierra. You would, in order to build an app that will be accepted by App Store, you'll have to build it in iOS Xcode 11. Actually, just a few days ago, Apple updated their criteria, and it has to be Xcode 11 and built on OS later than 10.14.3 Mojave. So really, that's any laptop, any Mac computer that's older than 2012. So that's, if you have at least 8-year-old computer, you can build and ship apps. One thing though, you would need to have Apple's developer account, and that costs $100 per year. And then you would have to maintain your app. So every new OS that will come out, requirements will change. For example, they will come out with a new device or font size or a new notification type, and you would have to update your assets to support those new images, or whatever new feature will be, they will have to be updated pretty steadily. So before Swift became sort of norm for iOS development, it was all Objective-C. And the funny part for me is that Objective-C started as a failure in a way. Steve Jobs was forced out. Do you guys hear this clicking, or is it just in my headphones?
Yeah. It means someone's joined.
Oh, okay. There's no way to mute that?
I don't know.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. All right. So Steve Jobs was forced out of his company in 1985, and he started another company called Next, and it actually made computers for education and government. for a little bit, but it wasn't really successful. But what they've done, they created Objective-C and licensed it in 1988. Later on, in 1996, Apple bought Next, and they didn't have good operating system for their Mac OS, and they adapted Objective-C for their Mac OS. And you'll see this when you'll be programming in Swift. You'll see this naming conventions go all the way from Next company. Objective-C was used all the way until 2014, what is pretty recent when it came out, and still I think dominant majority of apps is done in Objective-C, but it's changing now. So Swift, it is relatively new language, and it's strongly typed. So you will Xcode will check that type of data that you pass matches type that you expect, and if if it doesn't match, it wouldn't pass it. So that's called safe language. It has safe type safety. So it means that you would have a lot of compile errors and not runtime errors. So you wouldn't be able even to launch your project until Xcode confirms that everything compiles correctly, and it will not crash as you run your project, unless, of course, you have some kind of problem in your logic, for example, optional logic with optionals, and then you would have to, be on the lookout for that. Swift has a garbage collection mechanism called ARC, and Objective-C didn't. So that was huge improvement back in the day. So every object will have reference counting. So let's imagine you load it in your screen, it will have a button, a label, and a view. Once you dismiss that screen, nothing now references to those objects, and they will be released from memory. So it's pretty much automatic unless you create infinite loops, and that's a topic for memory leaks. So for the first 2 years, Swift changed a lot, and then it, thank God, started slowing down. So Swift 2.0 came out in 2015, and later on, 2.2 came out, and that version was an open source version of Swift. So I don't know why this is not clickable. We'll fix that. But there's a portal called swift.org where people discuss later versions of Swift, of improvements of Swift, new features, and all kind of technical details. So it is open source since 2.2. Then in 2016, Swift 3.0 came out, and that was a grand renaming release that at the time broke every single app. A lot of internal API was changed, and it took apps for up to a week to change back to compilable state. So yeah, so what important is that if you'll be looking up solutions for your Swift project, if you'll see that the code is for Swift 1, 2, or anything but 3.0, anything before 2016, don't even look at that code. All of that code has been depreciated. It will not work. It will not compile. You should take it out. So then releases started slowing down. 5.4 was released in 17, and there was last number release at WWDC. Then Swift 4.2 in 18, and recently 5.0 was released in 2019. So now Apple was trying to release every new Swift version for their developers conference, but it created lots of expectations and lots of overpromising and under-delivering. So now they said with their statements on the road to Swift 6, they announced that they will not tie it to any date. You'll just release when it's ready, and that would be it. And I think this is truly great. That's how it was supposed to be. So in the statement, they said that Swift is looking to expand beyond Apple platforms in Swift 6.0, and we'll have yet to see what that means, but that's promising. there's a really cool discussion. It's a podcast discussing what to expect out of Swift 6. So there'll be in Swift 6.0, and we'll have yet to see what that means. But that uses TensorFlow, and that is done in Swift. It is due to Chris Lanner, one of main Swift developers back at Apple, who left for Google and brought it over. Funny fact is that he already left Google and joined some AI startup, but it doesn't really matter. You can also write server-side Swift, and you can use Vapor for that. It's almost ready for Windows. It's actively being worked at. And I actually found some website generators that you can build using Swift. All right, so there are tons of resources to look at Swift development. Apple has really two major apps that they provided, two major sources. First, they have the Swift programming language book. It's a free book. You can download it in iBooks or in any book app you have. But the thing about it is very, very technical. So you would need to have some kind of prior experience or some kind of Swift experience to understand what is going on, because in a way, this is an encyclopedia of Swift. It is not friendly if you know very little about it. But they also came out with Apple's Playground app. It's available on iPad and I think iOS. I never checked if it's on iOS. It was presented as an iPad back in the day. But it's really a game that teaches you all concepts of Swift. Then I personally like two other sources. I like Hacking with Swift, and it's created by Paul Hudson. It's an English developer. He has fantastic English accent and really passionate about Swift. Really cool to listen. Then there's Sean Allen's YouTube channel that has a lot of tips and tricks about Swift, and he's a self-taught iOS developer that has been in business for 5 years, and he's a YouTuber now, and I really like the way he explains things. And then there are a bunch of online websites, and as hipster places like this, they will teach you all kind of things. All right, any questions so far? So when you'll start a project in Xcode, yes, we'll do that, Johnny. Okay. So when you'll start developing in Xcode, when you'll be creating a new instance of an object for your app, it will ask you something about Cocoa or Cocoa Touch. And the fun part is it's not really covered in Swift programming language book, and it wasn't covered well in the documentation whatsoever. So I just wanted to mention what it is. So it's application development environment, and Cocoa Touch means that you can develop for iOS, iPhones, tvOS, Apple Watch, and iPadOS with that library. And there's Cocoa, and that is specifically developed for apps for your macOS. So really, it's two libraries. It's Foundation and AppKit that make Cocoa, and Cocoa Touch exists of UI Kit and Foundation. Foundation has all of your major classes, and then Kit have all of your elements like buttons and labels for that particular platform, because developing for macOS and iOS is actually quite different. All right, and then Cocoa Touch has lots of ways to connect to native API. So you can connect to address book, you can connect to your calendar, you can send messages through iMessages, You can have push notifications.
Hey Alex, the Git link that you posted is the one for the sample project, but I was talking about the one that you're on right now.
Oh yes, all right.
Thank you.
Certainly. But that's there, right? So I wanted to first finish this presentation and see what we'll be able to cover. And I hear someone's echo. All right, so that's what Cocoa and Cocoa Touch is. When you'll be developing for one platform or another, you'll be tightly working with one or another. So in case you'll be developing for iOS, it will be UIKit. It will be your best friend and most hated enemy, and all in once. Because look at this. These are all major, most basic classes that are provided with UIKit. So you will have everything from buttons to navigation controls, to navigation bars, to views, to UI view controller, what is technically a view. So once you'll be adding elements to your app, they will be a great reference to see what else is available, because you might think that something is not developed, something doesn't exist for iOS, but it's actually a lot of things are done. Navigation between screens is done. You can customize it. You have navigation stacks. You have menu items. You have top and bottom navigation menus that stay in they persist, so they stay in on every screen that you have. So it would be great for any new developer to look into as many of these classes as they can to get to familiarize themselves what they can do. All right, so let's imagine you're starting with Swift now and you never coded in Swift. So what are the things that I think, it's only my personal opinion, would be most crucial to learn first? So first of all, most importantly, there will be optionals. Optionals will be something that will crash your app if you don't handle them correctly, and you'll have them everywhere in Swift. Optional is an object that can turn itself into nil. It's an enum that can be its data type and a nil. So it'll be very effective if you make a network call, for example, and you don't know if your data will arrive. And I still hear someone's echo in my headphones. Sorry, guys. Do you know what would that be? So learning how to handle optionals would be must-have SAP. There are 4 major ways to do this. You can force and wrap them, as presented in this example. The only thing is that if you'll force and wrap your optional into something that expects a strict data type, like a string or int, that will crash your app. It will literally just quit on anyone's iPhone and it will stop working. So that is highly not recommended. There are companies that never force and wrap any of their types ever. The only thing with that is, so you would say why even say force and wrap optionals, right? Why not make everything an optional? The thing with that is that if you make everything an optional, and let's say you have 20 items in your data class, and then you unwrap it, you'll have to save and wrap every single one of them. So you might end up with this pyramid of doom of save unwrapping, and then will become really messy code at some points. And then you'll also have to handle all nil cases. And if you expect something not to be nil, you would just set it not to be nil, because that's anytime you'll be using this variable in your code, you'll have to make sure it's safe and wrapped. So there's a lot of time and maintenance. So another one is if-lat. So if this optional is not nil, it will be, in this case, first name, and then this instance will exist in these brackets. And then here you might assign your label to first name, or give it a different, if it's not, give it a different value, but it will exist here. And if it's not nil, and then code will continue. So if it's not nil, your app will not break. Very similar with guardlet. With guardlet, your variable will continue to exist out of scope of the statement. The only thing is you would have to work for else case. So let's say it is nil. What do you do? Do you return from your function? Is it really important piece of information that's needed? Do you give it some other default value? Guardlet statements are pretty great for checking that everything is correct. Like if you check the username and password is in place, you would a lot of times use guardlet. And if not, you'll just return with some particular error code, right? Or a message or alert. So they will catch that it's nil and then just execute code right here where you can put anything you want. So, and again, your app will not crash. So we really don't want that ever. And then most common is optional chaining. The thing with that is that you will get optional time at the end. So if you want to make sure it is not optional, you would use one of these. But loading optionals would be the very first major step to understand how to work with Swift, because everything, a lot of classes are optional, and anytime you work with network calls, all of their parameters, all of their results will be optional, and they'll be quite important to knock this out ASAP. So next important piece in Swift development will be UI view controller lifecycle. That will save you hours, and that is one of the most important pieces, really. UI view controller is in a way a screen or a new screen in your app. So once you launch an app and you have a screen, that's UI view controller. The thing is, it doesn't have to be a screen. It can be just a fragment. In a way, UI view controller is a very, very powerful view. And even here, oops, you can see it's in the same hierarchy as view. But you will have all these functions that you can check and run. And let's imagine you have a screen where you have lists of students or candidates or attendees. As you leave your screen, if you leave your screen and then you come back, if you wanted to refresh, you can put your refresh function in view will appear, and it will run every time before that particular screen will appear on your device. So it will be semi-automatic, let's say, updates, or let's say you changed a name parameter, you can put that update in view will appear, and it will run this function every time it shows the screen. So that is quite powerful when you go between screens and you need to pass simple information. Everything is run from view did load, but that function only called once. So I wouldn't put anything dynamic there, anything that you know you will change, that will change once you come back from another screen or anything of that nature. So these four, view will appear, view did appear, view will disappear, and did disappear, are quite powerful. You can have your behavior set up there and not worry about updating your screen. That's a lot of time, and you wouldn't have to deal with delegates. And actually, that's my next important thing to learn about. It's delegates and protocols. That's a way to communicate between screens of your app. So let's say you purchase. And yeah, nil is a void, right? Let's say you purchase some kind of products and you have multiple steps. Protocols and delegates and delegators will help you to build your final screen, for example, or they will help to build your class. It's really, or let's say you have a big iPad app and you have different view controllers working together as a fragment. Well, in order for them to communicate between each other of what have happened, they would use delegation and protocols. From my experience, not many people get it from the very first try. So that would be another highly important piece to learn. And then with UI Kit, what you'll be dealing with a lot are constraints. So that's relation of your objects to each other and to screen sizes and to screen bonds. So you'll have to support all type of devices, right? From iPhone SE to iPhone Max, 11 Max, which one is that? Will be this October. So that's a huge disparity. So you'll have to get to know how to use constraints a lot, and they seem to break pretty oftenly. So that's an art of itself. So that is something to focus on when you fresh starting with iOS as well. Another important piece are closures, and there is such concept as escaping closure. So there are two major threads in iOS. There's main thread and there's background thread. Main thread runs everything that's UI related, and then background thread runs your data calls and something that's not displayed in UI. So let's say you have an API call and you pull out data about students or about weather or about Pokemon Go. It will take few seconds for this data to be delivered, and then you have to cast it as your Swift class. So what escaping will do, it will make this function wait until that is done, and only then it will fire completion. So in this case, it will first print this line, then it will wait for 2 seconds, and then because it's an escaping closure, then it will run this line of code. So you, in the part of your code where you cast your objects from your network call, that's where you put your escaping closure is complete, or whatever result you have set up there. And then it will only run when that process will be over. So when you're done transferring data received from your network call. All right, so practice. I think that those are the major things I really wanted to talk about in terms of what to do when you're first starting developing for Swift. These are vitally important, and sooner you understand them, easier it will be for you. There are so many things to cover, but those are first sort of most important things to understand, in my opinion. Yay. All right, I'm actually now a little bit confused if we should code it, if I should just create from scratch, or I should just present ready, finished app and just talk about that. Because I don't think
I would want to see it from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
All right. Sorry. Hope it works fine.
Oh, heck yeah. Yes. All right. So I'll show you final app at first. So I thought to launch this. Hopefully it will launch. We'll see. Extension. So I have this awesome bird app. You see? Yay! Look at that. And
Yeah, we
I
heard
agree,
it. I
Joanne.
heard
I
it.
thought you would like it. Yes, good. Yeah, you can hear the bird. I think it got inspired by all the birds singing outside of my window, really. I was thinking what to present. But you see how, like, we will get to libraries as we develop this app. All right, so yeah, I know. These birds are everywhere here. I love it. Okay, so let's create. So James, can you share? Yeah, I think you already shared that link. So we created just an empty project in our Xcode. And what I put on GitHub is just this 4 images of a bird. Put a background. I put a bird sound and something for our Lottie library later on. So when you first,
Alex, when you open up Xcode, it says single view app, game, augmented reality. There's nothing that says empty project.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about that super quick. So when we start a new project, it will give us that screen. So depending what is it that we're developing, we'll choose what which one to go with. So any app that you can share with like iPhone, every simple app is just a single view app. Unless you're creating stickers or games, or you're developing for one of these platforms that on top, you just click single view app. It'll just ask you for a name. You would click storyboard in here, and we can cover that in a little bit, but not right now because then we'll be talking forever. And we'll give it a name, and that's actually it. It will open you this view. The thing is, I put assets on GitHub on our code stack. Well, with James's help. So we have images and sounds available there. So here's the thing: anytime you start a single view app, Apple will provide you one storyboard and one view controller, and that is your initial screen of the app. That's where it will land as you launch it. So if, let's say, you have different plans and you have your own view controller and your own storyboard that you want to connect, there are two places in Xcode you need to change. It is main interface right here in general settings. So far it's set for main storyboard. And in info plist, there's main storyboard file base name, and you need to delete, overwrite, or whatever it is you guys would be doing over here. So there are two places you would need to change if you want to avoid this particular storyboard. But for our case, that is perfectly fine. We'll just start here. So there's a file called launch screen storyboard, and that is a screen that you see on preview when you wait for your app to load. So there's this plus button right here in Xcode, and that's where you would find a way to add any particular element for your project. So let's say it's an image. It'll be image view. Just drag it here. You'll adjust it for your screen size. And then let's set up very, very simple constraints. So it's this panel on the bottom of Xcode right here. You would go and set up its relation to screen borders. There are lots of ways. You can set up some of them as static. You can have some of them as dynamic. You can change width and height depending on the proportion of the screen. There are a lot of tips and tricks out there how to do it. So let's say it's number 1. Yeah, so we'll have that. This bird app, maybe without exclamation point. This. Let's see. And that's really just what will happen while you'll be waiting for your app to load. So, but still, it's a nice thing to have. You set up your colors.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
I noticed when you did the 3 constraints there for the text that you did the left, right, went to the left, right of the screen. But when you went to the top, it didn't go to the top of the screen. It went to the bird.
Right, I'm correct. I'm relating this view to this image.
Okay, so what if you, is there a way to bypass the bird? Like, say, what if you wanted it to go to the...
Certainly, absolutely, yeah. So if you want to bypass the bird, everything is possible. You would hold Control and you drag, and then let's imagine there are a bunch of different elements here. You would drag it to the element you want to relate to and create relational constraint this way. So I can just drag it to the view and say top space to safe area right here. And now it's no longer related to this image right here. but it is related to the top of the screen. And safe area is something that actually was recently introduced with the knob, with the notch. So that's area that's under the notch, because now some iPhones have that, and you wouldn't, if you wouldn't relate to that, you might be actually accidentally covered by it. But you can relate to any object on your screen. You have to have at least three to four constraints depending what kind of object it is. So right now we want to load image first, and then make sure that label always under it. So I connected it to the bird, but it can be anything at all. Is it not like that in Android?
It's similar. It's the same. I just
Okay.
wanted to. You just did it really quick. I want to make sure.
It's
Agreed.
way harder,
Yeah.
Alex. It's way harder.
It's real
I
easy.
see. Okay. Well, yeah. So that's really easy when you have two objects. But let's imagine you have a stack view and you have something really dynamic that you wouldn't have. It can get really complex really quick. And yeah, it's just one of those things that will come with experience. So right. So here, let's see. I wanted to have a bird that has some kind of animation, right? Something we can do really quickly. So let's set it a background first. So again, we just pull this panel and we choose an element. It can be label, it can be anything at all. It can be control. So what is this panel is really is this. It is this hierarchy of Cocoa-Touch. So everything that Cocoa-Touch has can be pulled out with this menu right here. So it'd be really cool to know all of the options before you go program, so you don't reinvent a wheel. So we put a view here. Then we'll set up constraints to 0 to its borders, so it covers the whole screen.
Alex, would you say the Cocoa Touch? Well, I know Cocoapods are. They're like the equivalent. Aren't they like the equivalent of npm packages?
npm.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the dependency stuff. Yes, that's the equivalent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what do they call it for Android, James?
What do they call it for Android? They call it.
Dependency.
They just use package tool. They use a manifest or the Gradle to add those plugins.
Got it. Okay.
So let's say we'll have forest in the background because that's what bird lives. We have constraints set up for our background image. We'll have this as our first bird. Yay! Beautiful. So what happens this? So we can add UI button. Right here, you can say play or sing, or let's play for now. So on this panel right here, you can change a lot of settings for your UI. But a lot of really, you can do everything programmatically. You don't have to use storyboard at all. Actually, if you have a design that wouldn't change, it definitely will be there for quite some time. It is in a way better to just program everything without using storyboard or zip file for that matter. The only thing, it takes way more time and way more code to do that, but it's considered as a good practice, and you'll avoid any type of merge conflicts this way if you'll have storyboard or a zip file merge conflicts if you'll just programmatically put everything in your app. But that's later on. Right here. All right, so we have simple image and a simple button. How cool. So we need to set up constraints. For it, let's set up a string height. All right, and You can drag control and set it vertically in this container, so it's always centered. Yeah. Nice. Okay. I need to take care of this first. Anyway, constraints are tricky. So we'll have, so let's imagine you put a bunch of elements in your app, and then you'll need to have some kind of communication with them. So what you'll do, you'll just hold control button and you'll drag connection to your Swift file. You will create an outlet. Or if it's a button, and create outlet and action. So now we can, once user will click on the play button, this part of the code will run. Or we can create an outlet just for the button object and add it programmatically. So there are usually at least two ways of doing things with Swift. You can use your UI element, or you can just add things programmatically, constraints or features or button behavior or tabs or anything of that nature. Okay, so let's you have just array of images. I think we have 5. So with a simple for loop, we can just go through them. And then, in order to change image, it'll be set. Yeah, it's changed. So it will be image. Named, and because item is a string, because it's an element of a name array, it'll be just this string. The thing with that is that once we'll click it, nothing will happen, because for loop will just very quickly loop through all these names, through all the strings, and we will only see the last result. Okay, let me see, play this. So what we'll have to do, we'll have to create a delay, and that's pretty common. Okay, that's better. So there's no cute way to create a delay in Swift, really. You'll have to know about the queues. So it will be dispatch queue dot main dot async after. So we want to create few, like, let's say less than a second delay. Oops. Okay, just create delay. We'll do that, and then this code will execute. So let's do this delay. So, and then only then, only after this delay, we'll have that set up. We'll have to reference objects as self when they're in closures, and this is closure of async function. And then we can say delay plus equals 0.8, for example. Okay, let's see if it will run. Poor bird. What, John? What's up with the bird? Ah, you see, so we need to change our constraints there. All right, and it's an animated bird. So let's say you have an array of welcome messages in 15 different languages. That actually Apple's setup has that. You would use that delay to show different next language or next screen. Let's say you have a screen slider, a carousel of some kind. You would have that, and that's where you would display. Okay, we don't have much time left. Maybe I should just jump to Lottie animation.
We have plenty of time. Keep going.
All right. Okay.
This is being recorded anyway, so we can, you know, people have to leave. They can jump off, but we can just continue with it.
All right. Just checking. Just feel. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. You need to check that. All right, so if you guys have any questions about development, that would be a great moment to ask you, because if I'll be adding next features, there'll be little of talking. I think okay. So
I just want to know what you just did.
So I've noticed that when we launch our app, remember that bird was extremely tiny, and that's because we didn't have our height constraint. So I just went and added that. So you see, let's say you have height and width constraint, but you also have constraint that relates to the bottom of the screen. If there's a conflict, it will break your image size. So that's a lot of times breakage happens when you relate things to the bottom, like here. So you just delete bottom constraint, and it will form everything from the top. And you just need to make sure that everything is supported on the smallest versions. Because again, let's imagine that you have an iPhone SE that launched your app, and the solution was too small. The lower constraint will break everything in your layout. So layout is a whole different animal. Okay, well, thing is, according to my plan, I wanted to add a text view and just have some manipulation with text view, and I wanted to input a number in the text view, and then I want to have a stop button, and then I really wanted to add Lottie animation. So you can just quickly do text view right now. Actual text field. Text field is just for one single line of code of text, and text view is for multi-line, and it also supports URLs. So you can click on things in text view. So let's say we edit really simple text field. Let's change its transparency over here. Something 0.75. So you can see background a little bit better. So we would create an outlet. We can do this in code, or we can just control drag and then text you clicked. And our type will be text you filled. And now we create a connection. And now everything that's in here will be executed. Let's see.
Is that when we touch the text field? Is that when a text changes?
So that's let's see. Actually, we don't need this right now. So that would be when text changes. But to be honest, we actually I thought of a button. To be honest, we actually don't need this because we won't be manipulating this. Let's see. So okay. So another very glitchy thing about Xcode that every new person should know: SAP. Let's say you added an object. Let's say you added an object and you had a connection with it, an outlet, and then you, just like as we did now, we deleted this connection. It will not delete it from its storyboard, a zip file. So you'd have to go to your view controller level, see all the outlets, and manually delete it. So if you wouldn't do this, your app will crash. And the sad part is that, let's say that you use storyboard or zip file from another project, all of these connections will be dead. So you would have to again reconnect everything correctly, or you will collapse. So if you'll not match that list with this outlets, it will break on you and quit your app. So hope that never happens, but it will. All right, so we create outlet to our text view, and then, oops. Then as we play, so what I thought is that we will input an integer, a number, or if it's a text, we'll give an alert that it's not correct. And then that's the amount of time the bird will sing, right? That's good. So, and that's perfect moment to actually talk about optionals, because text use text is an optional. It can be nil, it can be nothing, and we will have to save use type safety. So you say if it is empty, else. If it is empty, we will just repeat. I thought we will just repeat one time. All right, let's abstract this out. So let's see. I'll explain in a second. So we can use a repeat statement here.
Ooh, look at that wild syntax. That's wild.
I agree. Well, I wanted to show that we can use like for loop, while loop. We can have repeat statements, all of those. All right, let's just move it here. And then let's clear. So once we'll have that executed, let's just empty our text field. Next. Oh, it's called text view. Well, that's not right. Okay, well, it is then. Next, Neil. So if it is empty, then we'll just play this once. Else we'll play it.
Tell me when you need the drum roll.
The what?
The drum roll.
So that's, I wanted to show if let statement here. If let text field, text view the text. So text from this text field will be a string. So we would have to cast it as an int in order to pass it to a function. The thing about it, we use if let statement as the one we describe here with optionals, and they'll be used a lot. So you will, if it's possible to cast text view value as an int, then it will exist in this scope. So we'll just pass it to a function. But in case it doesn't exist and we have nil, you can have an alert. We don't have much time. Let's see. You can have an alert.
We have lots of time, don't worry.
All right, well, alert is sort of a different controller. That's really easy to set up. You can, depending on what kind of functionality you have, it will be title, message, and then you can add as many buttons as you want, and you can style them differently. You can style them as default, you can style them as cancel, you can have your own. All right. So let's see how it looks now.
It looks very similar to Objective-C.
I highly disagree, but okay. Really? I mean, I've seen Objective-C, and it maybe,
the alert, the whole alert function looks exactly
correct.
like it.
So a lot of
part.
things, but the thing is, a lot of things were adapted from Objective-C. So let's say I would have created target for a button in code. I would even use part of Objective-C syntaxes in my code. So you would see ghosts with Objective-C all over the place. All right, so let's see. So, oh yes, keyboard, my favorite. All right, so another trick from Apple. A lot of things that you would expect to be done automatically for you will not be done. For example, a keyboard.
Android doesn't have that problem, right, James?
Yeah,
That's
Android doesn't
absolutely
have the
correct.
problem. That's true. I wouldn't debate that. That is 100% true. But yeah, talking about iOS today. Oh, so there is no way to pull down this keyboard now. So that's something that we'll have to program. So how we can do this in, as always, so many types, but let's just, for the sake of simplicity, add a tab gesture. So let's say you know nothing about tab gestures. You would go into UI kit class hierarchy. You would find gesture recognizers, see all these different types, and you would find tab, and then you would just look up how it works. Let's just do this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Actually, right now we'll use some objectives as well. think it's this keyboard nowadays. And can't editing today. Okay. So we would create UI tab gesture recognizer. It'll be its own target, and it will run this function when it's tapped. So then we'll assign this tab to a view, and this view is the very bottom view right here. That's the foundation of this, and that's what that's a holder of everything on this screen. So if you'll click anywhere on the screen, it will dismiss the keyboard. And so while we here, actually, let's center.
Is that normal, or
Yeah,
usually
a lot
something
of.
else?
So let's say so a lot of times you would have a done button added above your keyboard. That's a common solution. Or you would just you would type out of out anywhere on the screen to get rid of the keyboard. So now it's a text view, so we can just add any keyboard type. Let's say it's a number pad, and let's have it centered. Actually, text field. I keep calling it text field for some reason. Okay. So now wasn't sure if that's the new version. Okay, let's it is. Okay, so let's put something that is not a string and play, and it'll give us this alert. So let's say it's your username, password, or anything at all that you want to have. You would check if it's nil, or an empty value, or an empty string, or just a bunch of spaces. And if it's not, if it is, then you would give an alert. It took us 2 lines of code to add this. Let's say we have put 2, and it will sing twice.
And
Yeah.
it's a very quiet bird.
It is. We can add AV real quick, because why not? Actually, I think like this is not enough singing, to be honest. I want it to be a little longer.
I noticed you hit it with the keyboard that you're typing. I didn't see the keyboard pop up.
When
you typed in the value.
Oh yeah, well, it's Control K.
Okay.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, but you see, yeah. So here's the thing. So here I set up keyboard. Okay, here I set up keyboard to be a number pad. The thing is, if let's say a person have their own Bluetooth keyboard, they probably will be able. Let's say they pasted a value, because it's still just a string right here. They can paste their own string. Yeah. So in order to test it, I had to type my keyboard. Here we have this like sort of safety check, but technically, if they try, they can pass in a string, because it will not contradict this field right here. But yes. Oh, actually, our dismiss keyboard doesn't work because we didn't call this function. How unfortunate. Okay. So now you see we have a keyboard, and then we tap anywhere in the app, and it's gone. Thank God. So gladly, iPads don't have this problem, because iPads have really wide sides, and they have enough space for additional icons, and one of them is to hide keyboard. So that was pretty fortunate. So you don't have to do this on iPad, only on iPhone.
There used to be an option to, well, maybe there still is, to have that little down arrow for the keyboard to make it hide.
To
or
make
done.
It high.
Yeah, there's an option to put a done button at the top.
Yeah, well, yes, but it's not a native option, you see.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
That's yeah. Anytime we use that, we use someone else's library for that. It is not native.
What about the down arrow to push the keyboard down?
It doesn't exist. Yeah,
Okay.
it's done. I mean, it's added programmatically, but it doesn't exist natively. It's oh, I have that. Silly. Oh yeah, player. So yes, it was noticed that bird doesn't sing, and we don't accept that. So you can add AV foundation, it's audio video foundation, and you can run, let's say, YouTube or some kind of preloaded video that lives on your device in your app on a particular screen, or in our case, we'll want to play sound. In order to play sound, you'll need to provide a path. Because our file lives in our app, our path will point to our own app. That will be naming convention for it. But it's very different for any different type of audio file. So let's say you have a WAV file, it will be of type WAV, and that will be a name of a file. And you'll have to look up your particular path criteria for any particular time audio type. Then we'll check the URL is not an optional, or we'll give it in our case empty one. It will just not play anything. And then I will have do try catch statement. So what that one will do, it will try to cast audio video this player with this URL, but it's an optional player then, player class object. So in case it will fail and it will be nil, it will go into catch arrow part of code, and that we can display an arrow, or we can display a message, or whatever it can be. So that's another safe way of casting your optionals. This one mostly done for custom types. Okay. So not something simple as unwrapping a string or int, but something that's a different API class of Swift. All right, so here somewhere we go through our array. Okay. So let's say, I think number 3 is where our bird opens the speak. Then we'll play bird sound. It was renamed. At first it was coughing, because I thought it's hilarious during our new situation, but then I thought maybe it's inappropriate. So you'll not be coughing, you'll be singing. And first I thought actually to display a meme, but I didn't find any not offensive meme that wouldn't get bored after a few viewings. So bird it is. Okay. Aha. So can you hear?
Yep, I hear it.
Cool. So again, as you in your app, as you finish your purchase, and you can have a coin sound or anything at all, new message sound, that's how you would do it. All right. So I would love to finish all this with in our case with a dependency. There is a lot of power in dependencies. There are so many written libraries that can do so much for you. There's Alamofire that handles all of your networking. There's an extension for handling your keyboard. So in case it covers one of your fields, it'll move your entire screen. The top of a keyboard will be moved to that portion of a screen, and they will be done automatically for you. Not right now. We had to do this manually, and it will not move our screen to our keyboard. So there are a lot of amazing things that you can do. So I thought I'll show my favorite Lottie library. So this one was developed by Airbnb app. Airbnb has a lot of cute animation in its app, and really small animations create really great bond feeling with an app. It's been recorded that one of the reasons some apps succeed and not is that because they create this nice cozy feeling. And you can set this as a mini views or waiting loading screens in your app, and they will make interaction way more fun. So in order to add a dependency, there are multiple ways how you can do this, as always. But most commonly used are Cocoapods, then there's Cartridge, and now since last year, Apple created Apple Package Manager that will be added directly in Swift. But as yet of this moment, not every dependency has adjusted to it. So it can be that it's only used Cocoapods and Cartridge, but doesn't use Swift's package manager just yet, but will in the future. So that's less than a year old method, and definitely Apple will go full speed with that, but not just yet. Okay. All right, so in order to add a dependency, you just put pod in it. So what that will do, they will create this file right here called pod file. We'll quit our Xcode right now. In this pod file, we can add our dependencies. Looks a bit old school, but maybe that's why I came up with a package manager. You'll just add it as a text, and then in terminal, you'll run pod install. So you'll go through your pod file and create and download these dependencies. Fun fact. So once you'll have dependencies, before you had to click on this icon right here, Xcode Proj. But now, since you have dependencies, you actually have more than one project. So right now we have our Bird app project and we have our Lottie project. So now we'll click Bird app WC workspace, and that's what you'll need to click once you'll have dependencies in your app. Okay, and now we see that we have these pods and we have Lottie iOS right here. So now we can go back to our view controller once it will stop loading.
So every dependency is going to have another, or is it just your
Yes.
pods? So just your pods is going to, you're always going to have that pods there if you have dependencies.
Right. Yeah, it will be in your pods. So yeah, there will be pod section right here, and everything will live in it. So you'll have like keyboard extension or a network extension, or they will be all like here.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and now, so the thing is, Xcode usually, that's why I quit Xcode before running pod install. Xcode takes a minute to understand that it actually has a dependency. So let's see if you'll see it. Import. Ugh. And it doesn't just yet. We'll clean the project. I'll build a project. Control B is to build a project, and Shift Command K is to clean your project. So let's say you disconnected some outlets, but Xcode haven't updated itself yet, you'll run that, and that usually helps. You can see it's building. Well, it definitely says it over here in build time. So, all right, great. So it's built successfully. So it should be there. Okay, so now, so Lottie provides lots of classes, and they actually just recently changed the way the API is done, because I was looking it up and it changed. Wait, great kit. Okay. Doesn't say it again. So they will happen for probably first 5 minutes. Your project might not see your extension, but that's, yeah, this is what you're gonna do.
Probably check your tweets.
Okay, wait, it doesn't want to give me what I want. So right here we have hierarchy, and I would like to put a view over our forest. So we'll cover that completely, and we'll tie it to our borders. So we'll set up constraints. All right, so now, because we imported Lottie, well, actually we cannot see them. That's unfortunate. Just yet, let's see. We'll be able to cast this view as Lottie view. It's called animation view, what is really misleading name, but that's what they called it. Okay, oops. Building was done. Okay, we'll have to wait until this warning will go away. So we can create connection. Okay, I run it just in case to see that you will see Lottie. And if you'll follow my link, you'll have this simple way of doing things. So let's put this in a function. And I already found and downloaded Forest. So Lottie files has giant collection of all types of animations. And there's another website called Lottie Editor, I believe, where you can change colors of this composition. So let's say your app is all done in red or green. You can change color of this banana to be green, and they will look perfectly fine in your app. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, let's see if it builds. It failed because unclear. Let's do it again. Okay. All right. Second of troubleshooting.
Hey, build success.
I know. Look at that. Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Got lucky.
That's always right. I know. It's all it took. It's just 88 lines of code that definitely can be refactored, but that's it. You have your first screen and singing bird, and you can type things, and so you have a text field, and you have UI image, and you have UI button here already, and you have UI view that's due to Lottie extension. You're able to set as animation, and they use JSON files, so that can be resized for any size at all. Or it can be, as you click on the button, it can be a tiny view on your button. It can be that scroll or that spin or a water drop while you're waiting for your data to load, and it will create really cool, awesome, personalized feeling. Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you, Alex.
certainly, there's certainly way more to talk about Swift, but those are basics that I wanted to cover today. And good luck with any Swift experiments. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, so if you want to send a message in chat, or if you want to talk and ask a question or
Yeah,
anything like that for Alex, please feel free.
absolutely. Hey. Yeah, but life cycle is something to pay attention to. Can simplify your work a lot. So you see right here, everything that we've done, where's our Xcode, is done in view.load. This one right here. And they will be only run once. But once you'll have a complex app with dynamic types, you'll just add these functions and put code in them, and it will do it for you anytime it loads the screen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So it looks like no iOS questions. Does anyone have any questions for Joanne? She's here to answer any UI design related questions if you're curious about anything in terms of that. So if you have any questions for her, you can feel free to ask them in chat or speak up.
Speak up.
Hello, everybody.
Joanne,
Please ask me questions. Please.
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Awesome presentation, Alex.
What would you suggest to follow for like general design guidelines? Let's imagine you develop an app. Do you have any resource like of what is trendy?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
what design code would like a design book to follow for a beginner?
Actually, so whenever I start a new project, I always kind of make like a mood board of some sort just to have a feel on like what I want to design. And so I have a couple of websites I look at to seek inspiration and begs. I can show them to you
Mm-hmm.
if I can share my screen. And then also on Instagram, there's a lot of UI UX.
But is there like I know that Google came up with guidelines, design guidelines for Google products. Shouldn't be
Mhm.
something like this for like a general purpose design suggestions for web, so for a website or for a mobile app? Actually, I don't know actually. I know Apple has some kind of guidebook, but that's
Mhm.
as far as I know.
Yeah, there's a lot now. I guess UX is kind of UI and UX is kind of subjective in a way. So
It is.
there are a lot of guidelines, but
That is no
ultimately
source of truth.
it will all depend on what exactly you're designing and how your users are gonna use it or how you want the user to use it.
Yeah, that's why we have you.
Yeah, so how they say like there's the rules, but there's also times where you have to break the rules.
Mhm.
That's kind of like it's kind of like that. It's kind of tricky too.
Uh,
So that's
If
why
you
I
want to
like.
share, if you want to share your resource, Joanne, I can. I'll make you presenter, and you can share your screen.
Okay, please. That'd be
Thanks
nice.
again. Thanks again, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Great job, Alex.
Hey Joanne. Hey Joanne. Joe has a question. It's Adobe XD or Figma. I'm not familiar with Figma.
Oh, okay. I am gonna say I am biased with XD because that's what we use at work, and so basically that's what I've been studying for the last 3 years of working here. But I've tried Figma once or twice, and it's pretty good because they have things that XD don't have. Um, oh, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh, good
Yes,
thing
we
I
can.
closed my
Yeah,
secret.
you have all your private stuff, right?
Yeah, so
All your classes we can.
Figma has I know Figma has like a lot of animations that you can't do yet with XD. So I think it's more like preference wise, I would say, like because both have pros and cons. But since I am an XD like person, all I can really talk about is XD and how awesome it is and how annoying it is. Yeah, so I would say you should try both and then see for yourself which you're more comfortable with, which caters to your needs more when it comes to designing.
Hey Joanne.
Yes.
So is the color scheme like important to your design? Like, is it matter what kind of colors you use for different types of applications and different types of industries?
Yes. So colors are picked from like let's say the company's official colors or the brand's official color. But let's assume that we are building our own identity, and so we have the right to design the colors as well. It definitely affects depending on what you want your app or your brand to feel like, or depending on what tone you want to set for your identity and for your app or website. Colors will definitely influence that for sure. And since we're talking about colors, aside from colors making everything pretty and everything appropriate depending on what your website or app does, um, it's really important that you check your colors, whether it's accessible for people with eyesight problems or color blindedness. So I have a resource here for you um, that's called WebAIM Contrast Checker. So basically, you put your foreground colors, basically what the text color would be, and then the background here, which will be where your text is going to be up against, and it has to pass these WCAGs in order to be successful. Um, Depending on what the project is and who's running it, sometimes they just want to pass the double A, but for more strict areas, uh, like I would say government agencies would want to do triple A guidelines. So this is a good resource to help you while you're choosing your colors, making sure that everything is accessible as well, and everyone who visits your website or app will be able to read everything easily and everything's legible. Yeah, thank you for that wonderful question.
Cool.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was me. That was me, Mark. It was answered.
How hard is it to come up with a unique logo?
Oh,
Oh, I guess it's hard.
it is pretty hard. I think it depends too on your client.
It takes me 2 minutes. I just do Google Images. There's tons of them on there.
Thank you, Janet.
That's Johnny.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
realize.
how we have our logos.
Yeah, it's hard. Depending on like what your clients want or what they want their brand to be, it's hard. Like I know we had clients before where they want a funnel and then trees and then a coin in one logo. So those things are hard to figure out, I guess. But I guess what's important really is to learn a lot about the brand and what message it wants to communicate. And then you can find like buzzwords and then make that the logo. So one example is I did a logo recently and their mission says something like bridging the sort of resources from this organization to students. And then their old logo was an apple with a bite mark. So for the redesign, I thought about using the word bridge and then incorporating their old logo, which is the apple, and put that into one concept to to have a meaningful logo for them. And then they like the idea that I used the bridge word from their mission. So that's an example. You have to be knowledgeable with what who you're designing for, I guess, like what they do, what they want to achieve, etc.
All right, Joe's got a question. It says, how do you handle client preferences versus designer preferences and the conflicts that entails?
I scream at them. Just kidding. I
I
scream
doubt
at
that works.
um I answered this before. I think I said, and I hope that I'm still doing it now, that there has to be some kind of compromise wherein you meet halfway. Normally, when a client tells me, "Oh, hey, I want this," but then I don't think it's gonna work, I'll try to come up with a solution that still handles what they want, but with my expertise in terms of designing, so that I meet them halfway. So you can't just tell someone, no, that won't work. You don't know what you're saying. Like you can't really say it that way. You have to kind of
Did you say
explain
it
to
nicer?
um
If you
uh
convince them.
like we can make your idea better by doing this. And so most of the time that kind of settles it, like, oh yeah, you're right. Thanks for accommodating my request, but in a different way. So they still think that they have um input, which is true, they had input, but it's your job as an expert to um, make sure that what they want and then what you think is right would meet halfway and make it work.
Nice.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? This is pretty fun. I feel like I'm an expert.
You are.
You are an expert.
Sorry, Jenny. I mean, I am an expert. Ooh. Yeah, okay. I guess while if you guys are still thinking, I'll just go through the resources that I compiled for you. Oh, I guess I can copy paste. Any suggestion?
We got another.
Design where the user wants the color to be prominently red. I have had that a lot of times. There's this one where it has to be a list of curriculum, and they have like 10 different curriculum sets, and they want it to be rainbow colored. So the first one is red, the
Wow.
second is orange, the third one is yellow,
And it was
etc.
popular in 80s.
And you just have at that point when and you can't really make that work, I guess. halfway. So you kind of have to gently tell them why it's not gonna work. Try to be more technical, like say um, it won't be accessible if it's all red, or you won't have the primary focus if everything is red, then you won't see if there is any danger or whatsoever, or any um, indicator. You won't see it because everything's red. So those kind of things. I think the way I did the rainbow, I told them that we can use your color palette instead of rainbow. And then I showed them a screenshot of how I wanted it to be. So you kind of prove yourself that, hey, even if it's not rainbow, it can still be clear by sticking to the color palette. So it worked out. Yeah, so no red for everything. Red only has to be used for like warnings and danger, like delete, cancel. Uh, yeah, yes. Don't.
Cool.
Oh no.
Okay. So here's one. I'll go through this real quick. So while if you guys are thinking of questions, there's one called Uxplanet.org. Basically, these are more articles, case studies on UI UX projects, which is really cool. I guess to answer Alex's question earlier, like you know how trends changes every single time, really fast. So these are the resources that kind of make sure that you're right on track and updated, and make sure that you're
Did,
not
did you
um,
read that mobile design best practices? You gotta stay up to date on that.
mobile design.
Best practices. That's the third row on the left.
Oh, this one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally read it. See, one screen, one task. That's correct.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. Nice
Right.
catch. Nice catch. So yeah, these are the kind of things, and it's nice too because being a website for a UX, you'd expect them to have a nice UI. So it's really this is where you learn basically. If you are still starting, or if you don't know where to start, I think this is the best way to go, is reading up stuff. And because this is where you realized how we've been using our phones, and we've been doing looking at websites for the longest time, and I'm not sure anymore since I am now a designer, but I feel like when I wasn't a designer yet, I feel like I don't really notice that things are bad, or oh, it's hard to use this thing. So when you read stuff like this, you kind of learn what to avoid, and makes more sense. Like, oh yeah, I was using this app before, and I realized why it was so hard to use, or what I would have done better. So these are the articles that will make. Like one example, just now. I don't know if you can see my cursor well, but whenever I want to type earlier, I always click here first, and then this happens. And then it happened multiple times today, and I realized that maybe it's bad UI. Because normally you'd have your text box here beside the send, but apparently this is where
I don't see what's happening, Joanne. I only see um, the, I see your go to meetings.
Just click into the chat. She's showing it.
Oh, the chat side. Okay, got it.
Yeah, sorry. Here,
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
this?
So
So whenever I want to type something, like these things that I was saying, drum roll, punch, fight, poor bird, nice, I love those. I always click here first, and then I start typing and realize that it's not going. It happened once, and it happened twice, thrice, multiple times, and then I realized maybe because it's not a good, not a good UI, I guess, because normally with your phones and chat, like Slack would have your text box here beside your send button. So that's like a very known format. That's why I'm so confused. Like I always click here. So earlier I thought it wouldn't be me, but I was trying to redesign it here so I can show you guys, but I wanted to put the drop down here on top and then the text box here and then the send. Because you know how in emails you put the to first, to what email,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the
Correct.
send, the text box, and then the send at the bottom. So I think this one throws me off. Like I put the message first and then I choose who it goes to. It's just I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's just not the normal format that we've been accustomed to using emails and
Yeah. They're
mess.
trend breakers.
Yes, but it's not working out. Yeah, I think trend breakers only work if people start um, following them, I guess. So if text boxes becomes like this, I'll apologize to go to meetings tomorrow. Cool. So that was Uxplanet, and then Instagram. I was really happy about it when I first ever saw it, maybe 2 years ago, that people started to post more UI UX stuff on Instagram because I'm always on Instagram. Maybe most of you are too, and it's cool that it just blended with my everyday Instagram feed, and I just learn even not actively. Like suddenly I see things and like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool, and I don't have to like sit down on my computer and say I'm gonna study more about UX design. It's just while I'm doing my normal routine, I get to learn more. And then they have these things where you test yourself, like like this one, which is more effective, and then it counts down, and you have to answer. I cheat all the time, like I pause and think about it more. So let's do this one. Which one do you guys think is more effective?
The left one.
Sometimes it's hard to see what the difference is with that, but I picked stuff that is easier to see. So which one, left or right?
Left.
Left is better. And how about anyone else wants to answer this?
Is that a
Um,
video? Can you click play?
yeah,
We'll run
yeah.
out of time.
It goes down and then it tells you the answer. So I want to gather.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, okay. That's why it's there. Okay, never mind.
What's your answer, Alex? Is it right or left?
I don't have enough information to give you an answer.
Well,
Okay. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
so
the difference is the underline, right? It's the
yeah,
highlight of the tab.
Yeah.
over
I think it's definitely easier to see which is selected when the left one's.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah. The left one is more conventional, I feel like.
hmm Okay, Cassandra also said left. Okay, we'll see what the answer is.
Let's find out.
Woo!
So many seconds. But
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not enough for me, so I pause it. There you go.
yay.
Yeah. So those small things, like you think it'd be small, but when you're designing things and people use your app all the time, without those simple things, it makes it harder for them. And the number of seconds um, that they waste without those things, it adds up. So. Okay, I think I have a few more. Oh, how about this one? Which is more effective? Okay. This one or this one?
Wait, what? Oh, the top or
Well,
bottom?
Yeah, top or
bottom, bottom,
Bottom.
bottom. Duh.
bottom. Okay, Cassandra said bottom. Thanks for.
It's yeah. I think
Yeah, thank you, Cassandra,
yeah,
for participating.
yeah. +1.
Yep, that's right. Because I always think about that whenever I use searches. Like, does it search? Like, oh, here. I was trying to search for beds with no legs. Like you know those beds that are like on the floor.
I
Like
look for
there's no
pants with no legs
space.
all the time.
I
Like
was
there's
thinking
no
about
monsters below beneath your bed or whatever. And so I was trying to search beds without legs, and then it showed me all the beds that have legs, and it was so frustrating. So does it mean that it's searching for beds and then without and then legs, or does it search for the whole thing because it didn't show me a single one with no legs. It showed me just everything else. So frustrating. So I guess for this one, it'll be cool. It'll be more clear if there are multiple words in one tag. It's clearer to see what you're searching for. Okay, let me do that one. Okay, last one. Eh, this one, left or right?
Well, highlighting
Left.
focus is nice. Yeah, left.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's taking so long, but spoiler, you guys are correct.
Spoiler.
Spoiler, there you go. So yeah, those small things you can learn from Instagram. So this is one uxcell.app is one thing that's nice to follow. And then this guy here has top 7 blah blah blah, top 7 blah blah. So there's a lot of so if I guess this is the best for you if you don't want to read long articles
Mm-hmm.
and you see
Yeah, well,
random
snippets of info.
Screenshots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is cool. So I sent the link here, you guys. So check that out.
Thank
And
you,
then
Ari.
for inspiration, I have Dribble. So let's say I wanted to search for STEAM website. I guess let's do STEM website. So it shows me STEM websites like that one. So this is a cool inspiration source as well. It's Dribble with the 3 B's. Dribble.com. And then here's another Instagram for the UI UX hashtag. There's a lot. And some of them are videos like this one. Oh,
Parallax. Nice.
like those things. So you can see a lot of inspiration from there and through your phone, which is nice. And then I was talking about XD. XD is what I use to prototype things. If you guys are new to it or you haven't used it at all, or even if you guys are already advanced, this website, letsxd.com, is by one of the Adobe XD designers. What's his name? Howard Pinsky. Yeah. So he did this this website with lots of tutorials, videos, and also freebies. So this is the one place to go to if you want to learn new things on XD. Very neat. And then the last one is Unsplash. It's a website where you can get free stock photos and you don't have to pay for it and you get it for HD. It's really nice. So if you need photos for your websites or apps, this is the way to go. So let's say I want
And
to
these are
do,
free, huh?
yes, meet
Nice.
free. So if I want to do meetup photos like this one, if I'm going to make a website on our meetups, oh, they have beer. Oh, want that?
Maybe one day.
Maybe not that one.
After
Okay,
8 p.m.
conference. Maybe there you go. Like let's say I need photos for a conference that has 3,000 people. I can get one from here, and then you can use it for free anywhere you want. So yeah, those are my resources that I wanted to share with you guys. Any other questions? Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
I'll get Elizabeth. No more questions. Oh, thank you. Does Alan have a question? XD is life, that's for sure. Quite literally for me, since I do it for a living. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Alan, but no red. Okay, this is the only time the red works. See how all of these are red? Because we want to know these people are on mute.
Right.
Unhappy client.
All
Okay,
right.
thank
Well,
you. We have
well,
4 minutes.
looks like that's the end of the question session. Thanks everyone for tagging along for the whole time. And in 2 weeks, we'll have another session, and we'll post that at the meetup. So make sure you pay attention to the schedule, and hopefully we can see you guys again in 2 weeks.
You don't know what you're saying. On the floor.
I look for
There's
parents with no.
See you guys again in 2 weeks.